let's get to their lairs. So you might think, where do they live? They live on the top of mountains in the darkest deeps of the ocean. Mountains are in the ocean. So if you didn't, But yeah, so basically they can live in the bottomless pits of the abyss. Not the demon world, but I mean the ocean. They're in the deep, dark ocean. So they could be on the bottom of the ocean. They can be in trenches. They're probably in old Aboleth cities or lairs that the Aboleth used to have. That's probably where they're at. And they have all sorts of things in their lair. So, for example...
Whoa. Before we get into that, I'll add to, like, where they can be. So they can be in all those places. The biggest place they are is the Underdark. You may think Underdark is, like, caves, but there's fully...
Water.
There's water down there, too. There's all sorts of water down there. And so although you may find one, like, in just the open ocean, I guess, maybe, you're going to find most of them in the Underdark. That's just where they are. I honestly don't have a good reason why they're all there, but I will say that the Underdark connects to pretty much all the other water. So if you want them to be somewhere else, there's tunnels that the Aboleths can take to anywhere you need them to be. But like they could just be in the lake next to a village, totally acceptable to be there.
Jesus. That's horrifying.
Oh yeah, I got some ideas related to that for fun fact or extra ideas, but
look, it's the Loch Ness monster gets slapped with tentacle, becomes fish guy that grabs you and pulls you, and you're a slave now.
Yes.
To the Loch Ness monster. Never thought I would ever say that in my life.
Yes.
You're a slave to the Loch Ness monster.
Yeah. Okay, but you were mentioning what would be in their lair.
Yeah, so expect a lot of slaves. That's a big one. Bodies, ruins of their civilization. They would probably have all sorts of goodies, like we said. Magical items is a big one that they like. They also have probably an archive of like a library. I wouldn't say a library, but they got some.
They would not have a library at all. It's all in their mind.
Their little head is a library.
They have no use for books.
That's true. But so they got all sorts of magical things. Slaves, a bunch of them. Excuse me. So basically, don't expect monetary value though. Don't expect physical money because they got no point of that.
Yeah, I mean, it may...
Sorry.
It may just be left... if they take slaves or, if they've taken adventures from the past, they may have just put their money that they had there, right? Why not? But yeah, you'll see treasures, most of the time magical items, if it is, real treasure. You'll see pathetic slaves and just general cruelty going on. Just, you may just find, horribly mutilated beings just, chained up or, just bad stuff that because they just like it, and so it's just disturbing.
It's sad.
So you can definitely add character, I guess, to their lairs by making them just seem terribly cruel because they are. Okay, so that's kind of basics in terms of their lairs, but there's actually a lot that we're given of their lairs, and this is canon stuff. This is real stuff you should include with their lairs that is official. And so the first thing I guess I would say is underground within 1 mile of their lair is always slimy, wet, and officially difficult terrain. So as you kind of get close to their lairs, you officially you're walking through difficult terrain. You're going half speed. That's how it goes. And obviously you would tell your PCs this, and this would be a warning to them that they're coming up on an Aboleth lair. They may not know that it is a warning. They may just think it's just you making the cave what it is, but this would be foreshadowing for if they're coming up on a lair. Yes. Another thing is water sources within 1 mile are fouled. So they cause, if you drink it, within minutes you'll start vomiting. You cannot consume it. And so it's probably that mucus that just kind of gets on everything. And so if you drink it, it's not going to work.
Aboleths are so gross.
Yeah, it's gross. And then this is something they're able to do within 1 mile of their lair. And they can cast an illusion of themselves so that they could be anywhere within 1 mile radius, and they may cast an illusion in a completely different spot. So that's kind of some general stuff they're
Well,
able to
I mean,
do.
is that illusion like if you poke it, like it's like not a illusion?
Yeah. It's an illusion,
okay.
and it follows all the rules of an illusion. Okay, but that's not all. So this is something that we could have talked about in the stat block, but it's not actually on the stat block, so we saved it for Lairs. And they have lair actions. They're a legendary creature, and they have lair actions.
Scary.
So if you, not only are they very strong and legendary when you fight them, if you fight them in their lair, they have extra abilities. So do you want me to just go into them?
No, go into them. Yeah.
Okay. They have 3, I believe. So the first one is they can cast the spell Phantasmal Force without the components. They don't need the components. And this is basically creating an illusion within creatures' minds, which is completely on brand for them. And when they do this, all creatures that they can see, the Aboleth, within 60 feet, sees this illusion that they've created. And it's this very powerful illusion of themselves, typically. And it sounds, looks, everything about it seems like the Aboleth. It's a perfect illusion. And it does require concentration to hold. And as long as there is this illusion, they cannot take any other lair actions. But they may not need to. Like this is a power they have. It's probably one of the most useful ones, and one of the coolest ones when you're creating an encounter, because the PCs may think that they have found the Aboleth, but in reality they have not. It is just the illusion.
You didn't say the magic.
And so when they finally get through all the minions and they finally get up to the Aboleth's illusion, nope. Wrong place.
I
Okay.
just imagine like a little slave just on the ground. You didn't say the magic word.
Yeah, true. Okay, but once the effect ends, so once the illusion is broken, or a creature makes the save, there's a save involved if this tricks them, then they're immune to any illusions from now on. Like they can't just do it again. So this is a one-time deal. Once it's done and the trick has been revealed, they cannot pull it off again. So there's that. All right.
No.
The next thing they have, which I could see as being very useful, is, and this is probably for if the Aboleth is like on the hunt, is Grasping Tide. So what they can do is they can thrust like a tide of water 90 feet away from them, but only 20 feet from the water. And anything that it hits has to make a wisdom save. Strength save.
I have to think hard enough.
A strength save. And if they fail, then they get pulled into the water. I believe it's 20 feet in and are prone. And so this is like a way the Aboleth can initiate kind of combat without having to go out of the water, which they are capable of doing. Here. Basically a scorpion. Get over here. Yeah, pulls them into the water. I just imagine like a wave hits, and then the DM's like, by the way, your wizard's gone.
Wizard?
It's like, where'd he go? Like he's the only one that didn't make the save. And it's like, okay, wizard, you're floating in this murky water. You can't see anything.
And you see that your hands are no longer like they're clear.
Well, yeah, and something wraps around your ankle. It's like, oh god.
Not again.
Not again.
If
he says not again.
If he says not again, all the other players be like, what?
What's your backstory?
Not again.
Okay, so that's one of their lair actions. The last one is they can channel psychic energy through the water, and all creatures within 90 feet of them have to make a wisdom save. So this is where the wisdom save comes in. And if they fail, they take 2d6 psychic damage. So it's kind of like a boom and like a burst of psychic energy, and then it just kind of rushes over you.
I thought it was kind of like vicious mockery. Like they do it, it's like you're nothing, and you're just like,
yeah,
I created you.
Sure, you could make it like that.
I remember when your girlfriend
It's just psychic energy. It could be anything. You could flavor it however you want.
I just literally imagine like you get hit by it, and then like it's like, I remember when your girlfriend dumped you. You do have little baby hands.
Take 2d6 psychic damage. Yeah. Yes, as you ponder your breakup.
That would be so good. Like, that would actually make sense for Vicious Mockery for Aboleth to have they remember, like, everything, I guess. So, like, if you got hit, they would be like, it's true, you do have baby hands. And then you start, like, crying. You're like, ah! That would be great.
Okay, and both the Grasping Tide and the Psychic Energy abilities cannot be used twice in a row. So if you use one, you got to use a different one before you can use it again. But you can do it constantly. Oh, and this is not an action on their part. This is the lair is its own thing. So they not only have their own full turn.
So you actually roll for initiative.
You don't. So
is it always 20 or something?
It's always 20.
Yeah.
So if a player, you make everyone roll for initiative. If a player rolls a 20 or above, then they will go before the lair does. But if they don't, then the lair gets to go first. And so it's very likely that the Aboleth will likely start off the combat with doing a lair action. And then from there, it's just cycles like everything else.
Well, I mean, what would you do if you got above a lair?
You just do it.
It's like, guys.
You don't even know. They wouldn't even know that the lair's about to do something.
Yeah, it's like, guys, roll initiative. It's like, what do you do, Elf? Nothing has happened.
In that case, you wouldn't make them roll for initiative. Or actually, no, you would. You would say a giant tide comes towards you, roll for initiative. And then you could see if they are faster than it or not. But yeah,
that would be so
it's like
funny.
roll for initiative. Why? No reason.
Elf, what do you do?
Yeah, no. Otherwise, that's a surprise attack, right?
Yeah, that'd be so funny.
Yeah.
What do you do, Elf? I kick a rock into the water. You kick a rock into... Okay, good.
And then a giant wave
This
comes.
giant wave comes and grabs your little gnome friend.
Like, did I cause that? Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. Ooh.
Okay, that's layers pretty much, and so their layers are not trapped.
Yeah, so
they don't lure people to their layers. They just don't really care. But if you come up, they hate you, and they're like, "All right, I'm either gonna enslave these fools and get them doing something I want them to do, or I'm just gonna eat them and have some fun with their memories."
Gangsta. I hate these fools. You know. And by the way, they're like they would look at you. It's like, why are you even here? Like,
yeah. But remember, the big thing with them is their mucus. So you want this mucus everywhere. So you want it on the walls, on the ground. Everything's difficult terrain and slimy. You want it in the water. No one should be able to see through the water. It should be super murky and just like thick water. Everything should just be gross. And getting pulled into the Aboleth's lair should be not a pleasant experience. And you should describe it as such. Like, you could definitely describe the taste of the water, how it tastes rancid, something like that. You could do a lot of stuff.
Who would ever drink that water?
Well, they may not know. So remember, an Aboleth could live right outside of town.
But wouldn't that water be, like, freaking messed up? Like,
it would be. Yeah, it would be. Exactly.
Yeah. But so it's kind of like in every Alien movie where, like, the guy reaches down and touches the ground.
Right. Just how aliens,
single
Yeah, aliens kind of create their own environment just from, like, living. Of course, they do it on an active basis. They're grabbing things and then incorporating them into their, like,
do
walls.
They just, like, they take a tentacle that kind of, like, scoop up some of their mucus?
No, it just is always radiating from them, and anything that the water can, like, touch will just get slimed up, and then it will even go a mile off of the layer. Like, it just takes over where it lives.
So gross.
And this is very important to describe, because this can give players who listen to the Albert Bros an advantage. But, of course, they should play within character. No metagaming. We do not condone metagaming here at the Albert Bros.
So now you have to drink the water when you come up to murky.
Exactly.
When you come into murky water, you have to
If you're role-playing correctly,
like,
you would drink the water.
Drink it.
Everyone drinks water they approach, even if it's murky.
Remember, kids. Drink all the water you see. Yeah, but now we're going into their combat strategies, which is mega fun. So the first thing is they're going to do a lair action, unless you're that one elf that, like, somehow got above the lair, which is probably unlikely. But the first thing is they want to get your butts in the water. They don't really want to fight on the land because...
Just your butts.
Just your butts.
Yeah.
You know, that's all they want. It's just like... You know, just like a hand.
That's how they infuse the mucus through the butt.
Oh God, they freaking
no, just kidding. They pull you under they'll drown you if they can.
The water grabs one of your cheeks and drags you into the water. Freaking, that's what they do.
Yeah. No, that's
and
true.
Yeah, so basically the dual lair action, they'll drag you into the water. Or they want you to come into the water before they even fight.
Let's talk about why.
Why? Because they move a lot faster, and also they got the mucus, and they got all these advantages.
They can do all the things most of the things they're doing on land. The problem is they only have a 10 speed on land. If they pull the creatures into the water, not only are they now like camouflaged, right? Because it's murky water. They're much faster. They got a 40 speed, and players or anything that doesn't have a swim speed goes half speed in the water. So it's now a big jump.
Does that water also become difficult terrain? So literally,
basically,
you're like, well, does it stack? Like,
no, it does not stack.
You're going 3 feet to turn, so you're just like.
Yeah, no, but players would probably going 15 to 20 feet per turn, depending on their class and stuff and such. And then the Aboleth is going 40, so Aboleths are actually really fast compared to what there would be fighting in the water.
Oh God, yeah, no, they are fast.
So you would want to use that as an Aboleth. You would want to, like, if you need to move around, definitely, use your movement as strategically as possible. That gets into another kind of like general start to combat strategies is they are super smart. So as a DM, they're
major tacticians.
They're actually not only just smart, they're also extremely perceptive. So you really can fight your party almost to the effect that you would as the DM, because imagine you have a party and one of the party members is like a very core member, like they've casted this like spell of water breathing, or they're doing something vital. The Aboleth, being as you could make rolls for this, of course, but the Aboleth will likely be able to perceive these things and then target those players.
Well, yeah, of course. Well, I'm pretty sure, like, for example, like red dragons, like part of their lore is like they always prepare for every encounter, but I don't think Aboleths have that. Like,
prepare? No, but like let's say your PCs walk up, they'd be able to. They're like Sherlock Holmes, you know what I mean? They'd be like, oh, he's got the thing. So he's the barbarian, he's the tank. Well, that's the wizard, and then he could strategize what would be the best thing to do.
So that guy with the bulging muscles and the axe is probably the barbarian.
Yeah, but he could do more subtle things like that.
Scrawny with a little white beard who thinks he's all cool with his magic. He's the wizard, and that little short guy with the little lute is the bard. So probably kill the wizard for. First man rip being.
Well, actually, who would they target? Well, let's get into it. So yeah, who would they target?
They would target magic users.
Not necessarily. They could.
What do you mean?
It depends on the strategy they want to take. And again, they're these very intelligent creatures. They're smart, and they all are different individuals. So they could target the magic users. But the only magic they really have to worry about is magic that makes them make a dexterity saving throw, because a lot of magic has to do with wisdom and charisma, and they are very high on these things. So really, they're not threatened.
But isn't that like all the projectile magic is like, here, wait, can you cast a fireball in the water?
That's a good question. It is magic.
Well, wait. What?
That's not a question for now.
But yes, but I feel like, wizards, sorcerers, they could cast like lightning strike, like a lightning bolt.
Yeah, but what save would they have to make?
Dex.
Exactly. So that would that would matter. But so those would definitely make an Aboleth be like, oh, this person is making me make dex saves. I ain't ready for that.
Let's kill this fool.
Yeah, he would either try to charm them or actually let's get into what he would do.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
But before we move on, let's still talk about who they would target.
They would target basically the most dangerous towards them, but with their psychic abilities and their charming charms, they will target the most threatful person, I guess, to try to charm. So let's say you do got that wizard that shoots the lightning strike, but before just utterly slapping him with his tentacles, he wants to make that wizard his friend, his slave.
Yeah.
So he could take those spells and say, like, kill your friends. Freaking blow them to smithereens.
I would say he would. It depends on how strategic this Aboleth is, but they are very strategic. I would say that the Aboleth would probably go for. There's reasons to go for all of them. So they may go for the wizard because the wizard's powerful, but at the same time, the wizard may be able to beat their enslaved checks. and so they may be like, oh, this person's really smart. I can't breach their mental barriers, basically. So they might go for the dumb barbarian and then feed off that HP for health.
Also,
and I'll do all sorts of stuff.
Another thing is, if one of the races of the players is like a lizard folk or like a trident, basically water-based races that can swim, you got rid of their advantage, so now you're stacking on the Aboleth side of the water advantage, basically. Like, tridents can just swim normally in water, like 30 feet. Also can lizard folk.
Okay.
So if you can, if you take away that from the party's slow.
Oh,
and
right.
now you got a fast ally, too, that can mess people
Yeah,
up.
might go against people by race. But so I explained why you would and wouldn't go for a wizard. I explained why you would go for a... Actually, let me further explain. So like I was saying, you would go for a barbarian or fighter or some heavy damage dealer, not only to keep yourself as the Aboleth from getting damaged, because, I mean, they don't regenerate, or they can, actually. But they don't... They can be killed, right? They don't want to get hit by an axe. So in order to keep that back, they may enslave the barbarian, but also they don't want to kill the thing that they're enslaving. So if they not necessarily. So if they enslave something, they'll want to be able to feed off of it with their like necrotic, whatever it's called.
They're numb. They're psychic drain.
The psychic drain without killing it immediately, because they want to get as much bang for their buck as they can. So that might be a reason they target the barbarian.
The chunky barbarian.
But there is a third category, and it would be range, things that are using range. And this is something they would very much want to enslave, because if you enslave something with range, it can attack the PCs without taking damage. And the good thing about that is whenever something takes damage, it gets to re-roll the wisdom save and perhaps become unenslaved. So if it can choose something that can fight without getting up close, that's a good thing.
Well, but what would be an example?
Like a ranger or
can a ranger shoot a bow in the water?
Maybe.
Like,
well, I'm pretty sure a ton of stuff is actually at disadvantage in the water. Like, I know piercing stuff, I believe, is fine, but I think slashing is, like, disadvantaged. Anything where you have to, like, move like this
makes sense.
Is disadvantaged.
So basically, if you got that one dude that just chucks tridents all the time, I think is fine. Get that guy.
Yeah, get that guy. But in general, they're going to enslave whatever would be most strategic and most threatening to them. But so they don't just enslave everyone, they will start killing. So how would they go about that, you think?
So at first, they would slap the hell out of you with their tentacles. That's kind of like their main weapon, so expect to get slapped a bunch by their tentacles. But they will also use their legendary actions, so they'll slap, slap, slap. They'll probably heal from their slaved person, hopefully the chunky barbarian or the chunky fighter that has ranged, or I guess a ranger. A monk would be scary. A slaved monk, he just goes around with that would be kind of bad. But so basically they would always they'll probably most of the time feed. They'll feed from their slave to heal if they're halfway down. But then they'll like interrupt people by just smacking them with their tail. Well, what's their other legendary action again? They can detect. So if you got a rogue who's such a freaking hiding doing stealth attacks, use that like before the rogue's turn, so the rogue can't get a stealth attack.
Yeah, pretty much. Always, if anything like hides, perceive them with that legendary action.
Yes,
and you kind of need to, because you can't just use the same legendary action over and over again. So you kind of need to cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a good one to use.
And then if you and then use its lair actions to sonic boom, freaking mess up everyone in the room. So basically, he should be going around slappy slap with his tentacles, probably killing the most dangerous stuff to him. He'll absorb health, and then he'll perceive if there's any like rogues or people trying to hide. So that's kind of like what they do. They will retreat if it's logical. Also, they don't want to die.
They don't die outright. Like, it's just an inconvenience, basically, to have to be, like, reborn on the elemental plane of water. So, like, they're just not worth it, like, to sit here and fight to the death. Like, what's the point? Like, they'll just leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's no point.
Yeah, so, I mean, do you think that legendary action could push people out of the water?
The layer action, you mean?
Yeah.
The tide?
Yeah.
No, because
Dang.
that's not what it says.
That would be cool. It's like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Water grabs them, plops
But
them.
so in terms of how they would attack, when they are attacking, like not enslaving, like attacking, they have no range attacks. So they're coming up close and personal. They're grappling and they're attacking with their tentacles and they're trying to disease everyone they can and really just kill people as fast as possible. Like they want to just down people. Just because the longer this goes on, the worse it's gonna
Well,
go.
theoretically, they can, like, once everyone's diseased, when they got, like, the water breathing, he can just take the fight on the land and make everyone start suffocating.
You would have to pull people up, but yeah.
And also, you take acid damage every, 10 minutes?
But the Aboleth does not do well on land either. The skin will eventually dry out. Although in a combat scenario, it's not long enough to dry out the skin. But
but, like, your enemies suffocate while you just bonk them a bunch with your tentacles.
that's true. But the enemies wouldn't follow. Why would they come out of the water?
Grab, pull. I don't know.
You could, but then they would just go back.
That
in
would
the
be
water.
hard for the Aboleth. They probably wouldn't do that.
Yeah, they wouldn't try to do that just because they don't want to be on. They're still at advantage. They just have everything diseased now. It's good. They would probably just start enslaving things because it's like, listen, you have to be down here.
Wait,
with
how
me.
many times can I enslave? Can I just do it?
It's an action, so any turn.
Dang.
Yeah, but so on its turn, it will either enslave, or it will do its multi-attack with tentacles. Done. That's what it will do. And then on its legendary actions, it will use its tail attack. It will use all of its stuff. We already talked about it. Tail attack to deal extra damage to whatever it's trying to like down, perceive for the things that are sneaking around, and psychic drain just to heal up if it needs to. Typically, but it won't psychic drain from things it thinks is important because it doesn't want to lose that charm. Anything it can easily charm, it will steal from. Because every time something takes damage, it gets to reroll. So it doesn't really want to risk that.
So when it's psychic drains, it's like your mind. The guy wakes up. Oh, my brain! What are you doing to me?
Yeah.
Why are you hurting me? Wakes up, starts bonking him again.
Yes. Okay. So overview. First thing's gonna happen. Actually, we might not have mentioned this. Is they're probably they're gonna cast their illusion, or maybe to start, they're gonna cast their lair action of the tide, pull things in. Then they're gonna cast their illusion, and the illusion is going to put the Aboleth somewhere that it is not. And so throughout this whole fight, the PCs will have the wrong idea of where this Aboleth is. And with this illusion, the Aboleth will probably telepathically talk to things. It will distract the PCs. Okay. While this is happening, the Aboleth will likely have a bunch of minions. And you can flavor the minions to be wherever it is, right? If it's in like the side of a town, maybe you have some like sunken villagers that are like there with all their like gross skin, or it may just be some giant crabs or something. So there will be minions likely. Just because if it doesn't have minions already, it wants them, and you'll be its minions then. It'll take you as its minions, but there will be minions. When you start fighting, the Aboleth is going to be strategic, and it's going to be aware of its own weaknesses. So when it looks at you, it's going to be like, okay, how does it threaten me, knowing my weaknesses? So it's going to stay in the water. It's not going to handle dex saves very well. So there's that. It's going to figure out your weaknesses as the players. It's going to figure out the enemy's weaknesses as well with its high perception. And it also can obviously get into the minds of these creatures and perhaps discern things. And so from there, you can add that to your strategy. As a DM, you typically know the weaknesses of your players. The Aboleth, if you make some good perception rolls, you should give the Aboleth that knowledge as well. Okay. So we've talked about how they would attack, who they would charm. Yes. So that's pretty much it. But I'll also add that not only will it attack in smart ways, it will use the slaves in smart ways. So the slaves aren't just like mindless bots to throw at the players. The slaves are in direct control of the Aboleth. So make them smart too, because like make it like a strategic like battle of armies, kind of, right? Like flank or grapple, and then have like maybe there's a big strong minion that does grappling, and then you have like these little poisonous minions that come in and start biting. Yeah, like it's all smart. Like you can coordinate these otherwise dumb creatures through the Aboleth.
That's scary.
Yeah. And then retreat if it's losing.
All right. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's scary, though. Very scary. He is a legendary creature, after all, the Aboleth.